Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast in Canada. Today was scheduled to be a podcast where Daniel and I were going to talk about the Surrey, British Columbia drug bust. So, if you, in case you're looking at the thumbnail, I did not know Khalistanis were going to attack and beat Hindus up in two places in Canada. So I apologize for the misleading thumbnail. Before somebody accuses me of that, I did not know this was going to happen, and we did not have enough time for changing the thumbnail. But Daniel, should I lay down the facts of the case from what I have understood in Brampton? Because I don't know a lot of the facts of Surrey, British Columbia, because I was not there. But I could physically go to Brampton yesterday at around 5 p.m. I'll share the facts of the
Yeah.
Brampton incident, and then maybe you can add up and explain what happened in Surrey, because I know you were following Surrey way more than I was.
Mhm.
So in the morning, the usually what happens is the Indian consulates usually host these events or programs where a lot of senior citizens of India who used to be citizens of India who get pensions in India, right? So they tend to sign these papers for verification and documentation so that their pensions keep coming, right? These are people living here, but they have their pensions in India. So usually what happens is, unlike the temples in India, which I have often said, temples in India are just a place of worship. Temples in Canada and America are more than places of worship. They're community centers where multiple events are held. And so this
I
this
mean,
was
I
one.
went. I'll just say, I went to the community center that we're going to be talking about in Brampton. There's literally a temple like on the top floor. Then you go downstairs, and there's like a full community center.
Yeah.
It's literally it's not a 2-in-1. It's like a 2-in-2 kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
it's huge, right?
Yeah, it's one. And this event was happening, and for the record, there were more Sikh people inside than Hindus. There
Mhm.
were more members of the Sikh community inside than the Hindu community. And then there were Khalistanis protesting outside. And what happens is, some members inside the temple go outside and request them that please don't do it. Not only were they protesting, what happens is every time these guys protest, they use microphones and they start blurring nasty things and swear words. When the requests were not heard, and the police, they went and approached the police, why don't you stop these people? Well, the police said they have a right to protest. Now, I just want to add a caveat over here that there has been a precedence in law that the police can tell them to go across the other side of the road. No, they were protesting right outside the temple. The cops could have told them at least go on the other side of the road, right? You remember the road, right? There is a
Yeah.
giant road there. They could have been sent at the other side. I want to state this on the record, Daniel. The cops did not tell them even cross the road and go on the other side. They were this side, right at the gate
Mhm.
where you and I had entered. So
Yeah.
that's where they were there. And then a few Indians inside the temple, they got agitated and they went and started talking to the members on the other side. And then they got way too close for comfort. And what is interesting is the cops were doing nothing while they were getting way too close for comfort. The cops should have stopped it then and there. And then somebody threw a first punch, and then all hell broke loose. And then Hindus were beaten up by sticks. For the record, the Khalistanis, we have video evidence. They entered the premises of the temple from the video evidence, and they were beating the devotees with sticks in.
That said Khalistan on them,
Yeah.
right? So when we see the videos, it's pretty hard to deny the ideology involved. Not that we're not going to do it. I mean, Canada can stick its head in the sand with the best of them, but they're literally, you know, full on whacking people with Khalistan sticks. It's
Yeah, so this is what has happened. And I'm not playing the videos is because I think the videos are too graphic in nature, and I don't want to play them. I don't want to show violence, people beating each other up. And that is the only reason I'm refraining from playing the video. I have shared them on my Twitter timeline. um, I was not scheduled to be in Toronto yesterday. I was coming back to Windsor. I am in Windsor right now. But then I turned around, went to the temple. I reached the temple at around 5 ish, yeah, 5 p.m. All the other senior leaders of the community, they were there between 6 and 6:30. While I went there at 5 p.m., there were visibly angry members of the Hindu community that were feeling betrayed by the Canadian political class, by the Canadian system. I spoke to two or three kids who were actually beaten up by Khalistanis. Yes, I did. And they kept on asking me two questions. Where are we supposed to go? The cops don't do anything. And the Indian government just keeps criticizing the Canadians and saying, this is on Canadian land. What can we do? That was the overwhelming sentiment. Now, explain what happened in Surrey, British Columbia.
Well, something similar, right? So, the Sikhs for Justice and Panun organized protests. One was at the Brampton Mandir, the other one was at the Surrey Lakshmi Mandir, if that's correct. Now that one, it looks like the cops did separate people onto two different sides. And again, we don't know exactly what happened. It's going to be easier to find for us because we're just in Ontario to find out the Brampton story. But we did see Surrey, BC police quite brutally and violently arresting a couple of Hindu worshippers on temple grounds. And this is sort of like the two-tier policing. So if they were separated,
They have been released as of now, for the
of course
record.
they've been released, right? It's all catch and release, right? They won't be charged, but it's sort of it's important to sort of, arrest people at the scene because you want to send a message. I'm just saying in general, right? So if there's a big, violent mob of Khalistanis attacking people, and you do what the British police like to do, which is you watch people commit violence and acts of terror, and you sort of observe them, and then 3 weeks later, you quietly arrest some of them. That's no good because the jihadis don't see that, right? What sets the precedent in the mind of an extremist is dominance, right? So if they go on the streets and they do something and they're dragged off and humiliated by the cops, that will stop it. But the cops are sort of, I don't know, for whatever reason, incapable of doing the right thing when it comes to Khalistan and only capable of doing the wrong thing. So they never grab Khalistanis off the streets or jihadists off the streets and just throw them in a cop car, even if it's to catch and release them. They never do that, but they do it to the people who counter protest or are the pro. Like, I don't think it's fair to call the Hindus counter protest. They're on their own temple and then they were attacked by Khalistanis. I don't think that's a counter protest. I think that's like standing your ground. That's defending yourself. But the amount of leeway that a bunch of Hindu devotees who were attacked at their temple had, right? They weren't going there for a fight. You just come and Khalistanis are up and then you swear or you lose your cool. They had no leash, right? And this is the problem in Canadian police enforcement is law-abiding citizens have zero leeway, no leash, no forgiveness. They have to be absolutely perfect, and even then, they might be made an example of. Whereas the more violent and crazy you are, the more you can get away with, because the cops just go, okay, it's not worth my time. I don't want to deal with a crazy person. I'd rather, just arrest some 17-year-old Hindu kid, and then I can look tough, right? Me and my buddies we can look tough. People can stop calling us weaklings. We can get our aggression out on someone, throw them in a cop car. And as far as they're concerned, I don't think anyone will do anything about it. They can just, have to have some fun with the kids and then get back to it.
I cannot name the individual involved, obviously. One protects their sources. Let's just say someone called a senior policeman in Ontario, and the senior policeman says, what can I do? I'm just I'm
Oh,
just
I've
stating.
heard that. I've heard that so many times. Like, I don't say it right, but like the amount of like people I've known that are decently ranked in Canadian police, Peel police, wherever it is, who know exactly what's going on, who want to do something that's going on. They say all the politics. If you're the Hindu community, where should you start? Peel Region Police Board. Go after the police board. The police board says they're about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ask the police board why they failed. Right? Start there because every cop I ever talked to, especially in Peel, who says, I'd love to do something. I'd love to enforce the law. My buddies, my guys, we all want to enforce the law, but they're all of them say the same thing. The mayor's office, whether it be Bonnie Crombie or Patrick Brown, and the police board are the biggest impediments to enforcing the law on extremists.
Now, what is very interesting is just on the 30th of October, people need to understand the importance of something like this. We have a proof of concept. This is a letter issued by the Hindu Federation. Try and understand the Hindu Federation has some of the biggest temples of Ontario. You have the Devi Mandir of Pickering. You have Babs. You have many. S- Cumulatively, maybe around 600,000 to 800,000 Hindu devotees and Sikh devotees. If we add the Hindu and Sikh, we will have a million people attending these temples all the time, going there to pray, to worship, to celebrate community events, etc. I'm reading the subject. This was written to the dear police chief, uh, and it says request for heightened security and vigilance at Hindu places of worship during Diwali. And they had requested this from October 29th to November 2nd, especially. And you know what the funny thing is? They literally got proven right. The Hindu Federation demanded extra protection, and they got proven right, because it is almost like clockwork that the the Khalistani brazenness now in Canada has so much that they know nobody's going to say. And why does the brazenness come from? Well, yesterday, outside of two Canadian members of parliament, I repeat, I'm talking about members of parliament.
Mhm.
One is Chandra Arya, who is from the Liberal Party of Canada, and one is Kevin Wong, who's an independent MP from Toronto.
Spadina Fort York, if you're wondering.
Yeah. Not even a single Canadian member of parliament, Canadian member of the provincial parliament in Ontario or in British Columbia, municipal councillors have used the word Khalistan to condemn what happened at the Hindu Sabha Mandir. Why is the Canadian political class so scared to use the K word?
White people will be called racist. Brown people will be physically attacked and possibly killed. That's it. So for the whites, man up, Buttercup. Like, just say the words. Um, and if Chandra can do it and he ran the gauntlet, then guys, if you're if you're just strong and you go out and you say it and you stand by it, then they can't come after you, right? They the initial threats, but Chandra Arya sort of run the gauntlet on the threats, and good for him. And Lord knows Chandra Arya and I don't agree on everything or nearly anything, other than the fact that the Khalistanis are the bad guys here. But good on him for having the courage to run the gauntlet here and set an example. And I think the myth of Khalistani, dominance, um, I think it's a lot of bluster. I think it's a bit of a paper tiger. Because again, I stood down a horde of all these Khalistanis, dozens of them by myself. If you're just brave and like strong about it, and you just have a phone in your hand, and you can just keep calm and say, no, you can't go here, you can't go here, you have to go there, you get this. Jewish organizations, the Tough Sikh, released a letter calling out Panun and Khalistan and Trudeau publicly. They never got any backlash to it. So there, yes, the violence that the Khalistanis will exhibit on Hindus is a real threat, because they've learned that no one really cares about the Hindus and they can kill them. But I would encourage you to speak out in English. In English, in Punjabi
Hmm.
is just going to get you killed. I'm serious. Nothing matters if it's not said in English in this country. Nothing matters. Barely, even if you in Quebec you can speak French. Fine. Nothing matters if it's not in English. Nothing matters. That's why they can threaten to kill you in Punjabi, because no one is listening in Punjabi. Same thing if you want to stand up for yourself in Punjabi, they'll hear you and they'll attack you. Standing up for yourself in Punjabi is like painting a target on yourself. Do it in English, do it strong, do it consistently, and don't back down, and there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, and I just want to put this on record that Tafseek, I do want to take this time to appreciate Jewish organizations. Uh, so Tafseek did raise this. This was the letter from Tafseek where they openly condemned Gurpatwan Singh Pannu being given a platform by CBC. And look at the chronology, right? Gurpatwan Singh Pannu released that video recently where he said uh, Hindus should not be allowed to celebrate Diwali, uh, with a map of India in the background. But obviously they said first you tell them with folded hands not to burst firecrackers, and then you deal with them in Khalsa style. I don't know what the hell Khalsa style means, honestly, but everybody knows what they want to say. It's always juggling around with words.
I don't think it's the same as Gangnam Style. I think it's
Yeah, so that's the whole point. But nothing happened in Punjab, obviously, because there is no Khalistan there,
Mhm.
but things happened over here. So in such a scenario, Tafseek was right when they asked, as Canadians, that why is this guy being platformed and normalized? And people should remember it was this same person, Gurpatwan Singh Pannu, who goes on CBC and says, lo and behold, I am in touch with the Prime Minister's office, and I am in last 3 years we have been working very closely with Prime Minister Trudeau. We are saying this to Trudeau, we are saying that to Trudeau. I'm like, what else is left in life for us to do, where you have Gurpatwan Singh Pannu openly coming and admitting that, listen, we are in touch with the Prime Minister's office, we are giving him inputs, and then he makes this video where he openly says Hindus should not be allowed to celebrate Diwali. And then you have these Khalistanis coming outside, and you know what? What the hell? I'll just freaking play his video in Punjabi before somebody accuses me that Gurpatwan Singh Pannu did not say anything. Freaking, I'll play the damn video.
Do it, play it.
Yeah, I mean, who cares? I mean, the man. I didn't want to give him any promotion, but what the hell?
ਇਸ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਵਰਗ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੰਦਰ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ 1 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਮੰਦਰ, ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਭਰਾ ਭੈਣ, ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਹਿੰਦੂਆਂ ਦਾ ਘਰ ਆਤਿਸ਼ਬਾਜ਼ੀ ਨਾ ਕਰੇ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਪੰਥ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਹੈ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੱਥ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਖਾਲਸਾਈ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸੇ ਮੰਦਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਆਤਿਸ਼ਬਾਜ਼ੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ। ਇਸ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਵਰਗ ਨੂੰ
For the record, Diwali was celebrated like it always is in India. Every month they did fireworks. Even the Hindus, Sikh, everyone was celebrating Diwali. It is very hilarious that he says, and nobody in Punjab listens to him, but they listen to him over here. Now, the next clip I want to play is when he was on CBC, and it's very important that people understand, to back Tafseek up. This, what I'm doing right now, is to back Tafseek up. Why Tafseek is right. As a Canadian Jewish organization, they are right. So listen to this.
Like what Prime Minister Trudeau, when they made this statement yesterday publicly, it shows their Canada's unwavering commitment to justice, a rule of law, and the national security. And Sikhs for Justice have been communicating with the Prime Minister office for the last 2 to 3 years, detailing all the spy network that Indian High Commissioner who.
All right. So
Can I just point out that one of the things I said in September of 2023 is at the beginning, at the first week, I said, this seems like the Canadian intelligence is just like getting high on some sort of Khalistani fever dream. Like they were just like eating some sort of, and it turns out they were. It turns out Pandin was behind all of this, right? It sounded like someone in the Canadian agents just like mainlining Khalistani conspiracies. And that was sort of informing the RCMP's outlook on the world. And it turns out I was right.
yeah, and I'm another Jewish organization. I just saw the tweet. So I listen.
Mhm.
I want to appreciate all Jewish organizations, no matter what. So even CIJA has come out officially and said we are appalled by the attack carried out earlier today by extremists on Hindu worshippers at the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton. CIJA has openly called them extremists. We unequivocally condemn this senseless act of violence against Canada's Hindu community, which took place during Diwali, a sacred holiday marking the triumph of good over evil. We stand with our Hindu friends during this difficult time and call on the Canadian government to address rising extremist intimidation and violence. Hate has absolutely no place in Canada. Well, they did not use the K word. I know, like Tafseek, but
CIJA should, because CIJA was the first one to legitimize the World Sikh Organization. So they have some answering to do on this thing. CIJA should say the K word.
Well, but I want to appreciate them, because right now, as a Hindu community, we want more and more people to stand with us. It is truly depressing to see how the overall community has been, just, I don't know for what word am I saying, like, try and understand. This is an image of the Hindu Sabha Mandir when this attack happened. Just look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Forget my face and Daniel's face. Who is there in majority when this attack happened? Inside the mandir. It is full of Sikh Canadians. These people, I have said it again and again and again. These Khalistanis want to make it a Hindu versus Sikh issue. It is a Hindu Sikh versus Khalistani issue. And we are sick and tired. And everybody says, why don't the Sikhs speak up? Baba, the ones who speak up, they get beat up. They beat brown people up. They don't beat white people up. They sue white people.
Yeah.
But they beat brown people up. But the problem is, like, when will the Canadian political class, like, nobody wants to question the Canadian political class. Are we all supposed to just sit on our haunches and just pretend nothing has happened? Nothing? Nobody in the entire Canadian political class is going to act and question these people. Nobody. And not even a single Canadian political leader has the guts, I say the guts, to even use the Khalistan word. I don't know what to say. It's just frustrating. They just, I mean, I don't know what the Khalistanis have on them. Like, do you have any idea what the Khalistanis have on them?
I mean, there could be blackmail. There could be this. I mean, never rule out the sheer amount of incompetence and stupidity within the Canadian bureaucracy. Okay, so, well, you might listen. There probably is some corruption and malice going on here. Clearly, someone is maliciously tipping a finger on the scale, but never underestimate Canada's bureaucracy's ability to just not understand an issue, fumble an issue, and like, also you have to understand, like, it's not just Hindus in Canada, okay? It's not just Hindus. It's not like Canada's this perfect place, but it's only this Hindu Khalistani issue where society's falling apart. No, it's many different places. And you don't have to be a Khalistani, a hardcore Sikh brainwashed Khalistani, to end up becoming a Khalistani in Canada. If you're my age and you went to a public school and then you went to a university and you took a sociology degree and you leaned a bit left while you did it, and then you got even more left wing, and then you went into human resources and you're in a bureaucracy and you're just a sort of left-wing Canadian inside the Liberal Party, you're probably a terrorist sympathizer. Because that's what we teach our kids in university: decolonization, recolonization. Palestinian suicide bombers are good, Israeli civilians are bad. So when they tell you the oppressor oppressed thing and they go, oh, Sikh genocide, Sikhs were oppressed in India, and instantly, if you're just a standard left-wing Canadian and the Khalistanis come at you with this liberal narrative, you're just going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, they're right. Of course, they're oppressed. They can attack a temple. This is just the Western mindset is so toxic right now that you don't have to be a hardcore Khalistani to back the hardcore Khalistanis. You could just be my cousin who's left wing, and oh, Daniel says some crazy things, and I'm very progressive. And you go to a circle with your friends, and they're just talking politics. And if you're just talking politics with some progressive friends, and this comes up in some way, it's very likely that if you're all progressives, you'll get in a room and you'll decide that the people whacking Hindus with sticks are the real victims. You don't have to be no Sikh, no Khalistani, no Panoon, no Justin Trudeau could be involved, and you can still end up as a terrorist sympathizer. That's the mentality of the Western left. So, I mean, why are you sending your kids here to Canada for school? Like, I mean, you want a solution, India? What do we do? Oh, what do we do, India? What do we do? Canada's doing this. We're going to shut down the student visa program. Destroy, like, our universities will suffer. But if you send your kids to Western universities right now, they're going to end up hating your country. They will end up hating India, hating Israel, and hating the West. That is what they're taught to do. Unless they're getting this super biomedical engineering degree and totally outside of that. But if you're just sending them to arts and humanities in the West, they will come back and learn to hate your country, love radical Islam, love Khalistan, and be communist. And if they're not going to, that's what if they go to a real university, they'll be radicalized into a far left terrorist sympathizer. if they don't go to a real university, like most of your kids are actually being human trafficked and taken in by crime lords. So either your kids will become highfalutin, fancy terrorist sympathizers, or they'll be sucked into a human trafficking ring, where they'll likely end up as indentured servants, slaves, or actual terrorists themselves. That's your future if you send your kids to Canadian schools. So just shut it down. Shut it down. And then Canada will love you, because Canada's trying to scream about immigration in this student visa program, which is causing all these problems. Shut down the student visa program from the Indian end. It will crash the most anti-India businesses right now are Khalistani human traffickers and Canadian universities. Hit them where it hurts. Take their money away. Force them to change. But what do I know?
Yeah, I want to play this clip from someone I deeply admire. He spoke to ANI. Ujjwal Dosanjh is a pillar of our community. He's been standing up for the community for years, and I want to play what he has said. And this summarizes, like, the words he used on the National Post about Trudeau. Oh my God. I mean, and it's like, for Ujjwal Dosanjh to do this, I know him as a person. He's such a gentleman. And he's like, I don't care if you quote me, just say what I said. Just like, oh my God, he's fed up. But listen to him.
Well, it's absolutely horrible and absolutely unacceptable. But a similar thing happened at the Sikh temple in Vancouver, where the consular officials were holding the event for life certificates for seniors and the like. But it's absolutely condemnable, and the politicians, however, haven't called out the Khalistanis by name when they've sort of mealy-mouthed condemnations that usually come regular format. But this is a serious situation where Canadian citizens who happen to become violent are preventing the Indian consular officials from carrying on serving people who need to be served at people's convenience. And that's absolutely improper for them to do what they're doing, the Khalistanis, and they should be called out by name. And it is, from my perspective, this is not new. I mean, it's been going on in different forms: intimidation in meetings, intimidation in parades, intimidation at the temples, violence at the temples, threats at the temples. And the politicians have paid no attention. And now things have escalated. And so this is an absolute failure of the political class in this country who are suffering from collective amnesia, as well as the law enforcement agencies who have done nothing. If somebody said Jews should be deported from Canada, that person would be prosecuted. Here, Pannu, who's a Canadian citizen, and comes to Canada often, says Hindus should be expelled from Canada. Well, why is that not a hate crime? So, ultimately, what I'm saying to you is that this is not an easy situation. Politicians have slept through for the last 5 or 10 years. The things were dying down, calming down. But when Mr. Trudeau arrived on the scene with the full paraphernalia of the Khalistanis around him, things got a new gusto, new wind in their sails, and now you have what you have, and we are reaping the fruits of Mr. Trudeau's indulgence of the Khalistanis, intentioned, quite deliberate indulgence of the Khalistan.
I'm going to have one correction to Ujjwal Dosanjh right here, who is right about absolutely everything except the fact you can chant to deport Jews at Jews in a Jewish neighborhood. I've seen it. It's been done to me. People with heavy Arabic accents who are clearly not born here come in with swastikas and go to Jews and chant it as, go back to Europe, go back to Poland, we will deport you, we will drive you out. So you can go into a Jewish neighborhood in front of a synagogue with a swastika and openly threaten violence and deportation against the Jews in front of the police, and they will do nothing. So
yeah.
it's
And I'll
Again,
back you for that.
and I just want to, just so the people, our Indian audience, understand. You might see, and I understand how you get this. You might see in the news, oh, Canada's this place that's unfair for Hindus, and that's just a part of it. This isn't just a Hindu malice and a functioning country. This is complete societal collapse. And the reason why it's important to protect the Hindu community, not the Canadians, is it's all connected. If you stand with the Jews, that's great, right? Because they'll come for you. But if you then say, okay, I don't care about the Hindus and Khalistanis, well, then society will collapse there. It's all connected, right? And if you're not standing with the Christians when their churches are being burned, like that's like the heart of Canada, right? Our churches, we're a Christian country. And over 100 churches have been vandalized and burned down under Trudeau. And he calls it understandable. This is the type of stuff, right? We're all connected. So it's complete societal breakdown. Complete societal breakdown.
Yeah, and for those who have a doubt about what Ujjal Dosanjh said, yeah, well, this is what was said recently by the Khalistanis. I had shared this video a while ago. Listen to this. Like, I don't understand what I mean, it was kind of funny also, I have to admit. I mean, I was half laughing while they were saying this. I want to play another clip. This was again in the foreign interference inquiry, and I think this sums up the Canadian discourse as far as India and Canada is concerned, or diaspora politics in general is concerned. I think this is a very important clip. This is what Trudeau has reduced this country to.
The last decade has been a period of great and growing difficulty in our relationship with China and India in particular, and I wanted to understand why. I came to believe that diaspora politics is preventing Canada from pursuing its national interest in these relationships. I was informed of that by people who have been involved at the highest levels of the government of Canada. Off the record, I believe the most important controversies in our relationship with India, for example, ought to be the export of chickpeas, not the politics around regional separatism. And that's not the case now. I'm not convinced that a change of government alone will end the problems we face, because the forces that acted on this government will act on future governments as well. I think this is an important problem for Canada, not existential, but serious, and it is distorting our policy-making processes. And there are things we ought to do to reduce it, to make our economy, our democracy more resilient and safeguard our independence. To deal with this, we have to talk about diaspora politics. New Canadians are enthusiastic participants in nomination and leadership contests, which is their right and something in which Canadians can take pride. One of the reasons so many people want to come here is because of our open political system. Freedoms guaranteed by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The system depends on volunteers. People show up to meetings, canvass, pound signs, and that has a great positive value, this kind of participation. Nomination and leadership contests, however, as the Commissioner has noted, are a gateway to foreign interference. I talked to a longtime organizer this week who told me that there are likely more non-citizens than citizens participating in nomination contests in the Liberal Party of Canada. That may not be true. I don't believe the Liberal Party of Canada would be able to tell you one way or another.
This is disgusting.
This is everything I've been saying for 10 years.
This is disgusting. And I just want to state this on record, okay? The Hindu community doesn't go outside where singing songs and heckling people. The Jewish community doesn't go outside singing songs and heckling people. The heckling is always one-sided.
Oh, that's the Christians. The Christians don't in Canada.
Yeah, they don't do anything. They don't do anything. They're like, we're here.
Christians are so Hindus. If they just didn't try and convert all you guys would be best friends. Yeah. Christians just love Christians and Hindus have like the same solution to everything. Oh, we're being attacked. Let's sit here and pray.
Let me just put this on record that yesterday's meeting that happened for 5 hours inside the Hindu Sabha Mandir, the less I say, the better. The less I say, the better. I was there throughout the meeting. Before somebody says, I know everything that was said there. And yeah, and listen, finally, I think now things will move, because till now the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Damodar Das Modi, was quiet. But now, just a few minutes ago, just exactly an hour ago, the Honorable Prime Minister of India has said this: I strongly condemn the deliberate attack on a Hindu temple in Canada. Equally appalling are the cowardly attempts to intimidate our diplomats. Such acts of violence will never weaken India's resolve. We expect the Canadian government to ensure justice and uphold the rule of law. Try and understand, the Indian Prime Minister was not responding and not saying a word till now, because they honestly don't take Canada that seriously. I mean, I don't know how else am I supposed to say that. They're like, that's their reaction when it comes to Canada. Every time I reach out to my sources in India, they're like, Canada. That's the real reaction. They think it's like some lightweight issue. We are not going to be bothered about it. Blah 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 blah. And to my frustration, to be very honest, and I've been very critical of that fact, but uh, and then we had the Ministry of External Affairs that had made a very bold statement, just where I want to quote them. The Ministry of External Affairs had said, quote, such irresponsible actions will have serious consequences for bilateral ties. Before the Prime Minister has now come out and made the statement, now you will have serious consequences. Prime Minister doesn't speak just like that. Now you will have serious consequences. And one more angle that I wanted to talk about is, why does the Canadian political class do this? I say this with a lot of pain but responsibility. I think the Canadian political class is now working like Muhammad Ali Jinnah did in Pakistan with the Hindu community. The idea of Muhammad Ali Jinnah was, these Hindus that live in Pakistan, they will always be used as leverage against the Indian state. The Canadian political class is very aware of the fact that the Indian state, even if you're a Canadian passport holder but are of Indian origin, the Indian political state, because unlike others, the Jews will get it,
Mhm.
because India is a civilizational state, just like Israel is a civilizational state. Civilizational states care for everyone, even if they live outside their state, even if they don't hold their passports. Just like Israel cares for the Jewish community outside Israel, whether they're in America, they're in Canada, they might be incompetent.
The best example is Argentina and the Jewish Community Center bombing done by Hezbollah and the RGC in Argentina in the 90s. Israel's been the only country really working consistently to bring the perpetrators to justice.
So my whole point is that the Indo-Canadian community, barring the Khalistanis who are not Indians, are now being used as a quasi hostage in Canada. They know there are more than 2 million strong members of this community. That's a lot of people in a country. They know that the Indian state will always care for them. And if Canadians are feeling offended by this, I don't give a shit. Yes, I am being held hostage in this country in many ways. And, now you will have the temple communities. No, we feel very safe. Go to hell, all of you. This is the reality. This is the geopolitics that this country is playing right now, because they know very well that that's the one weak spot of India, their diaspora. They care too much for them. And this is what is happening. So that it's out in the open. The Canadian political class, and I want to narrate two incidents that I found out today. I mean, I shared today. I found out before. So Trudeau went to this London Mandir. First of all, shame on you, trustees. Seriously, I mean, shame on all of you. I mean, in such a time, calling Trudeau there, all of you. And Pierre did in a program, the value of a Hindu is one rasgulla and one gulab jamun. He did that Rajdhani Sweets thingy, meet and greet. My sources in both events categorically told me calls were made by the party offices and people were told you have to vet every single person that goes to that event, because we cannot have a situation where agitated Canadian Hindus who are feeling unsafe in Canada end up asking questions to the two most powerful leaders in this country, which are Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau. How do you react to that as a Canadian, Daniel?
Not surprised. This is how the Canadian system works. Find soft, weak men with money, promise them almost nothing in a candy bar. They'll do whatever you want. And hard questions are not to be asked, and especially from a community they know they can kick like this. Listen, this would never happen. They've never even tried this in a Muslim community center. They know they could never enforce that law on that community. But when politicians sense weakness in a community, and by weakness I mean moral decency, when politicians sense moral decency and Canadian values and civilizational, impulses, they don't want to be asked hard questions. Like, you have this at the time, like where politicians try and get pre-screenings for interviews, and Canadian politicians are so arrogant. They're so arrogant. They think they can just go in anywhere and sanitize the situation and always have it go to their words or narrative. No, you're failing. The Conservative Party, you didn't need to cancel Diwali. We told you not to. You did, and now you're facing the consequences. And we just don't want any Hindu who's upset about Diwali being canceled. Well, next year, try this. Cancel Christmas. Say no Christmas on December 25th. Parliament will not be celebrating Christmas. And then try going into a church in January. See what happens. But
I mean, I have no idea. What am I supposed to believe? What am I supposed to say? How am I supposed to react to this entire mess? I mean, sometimes I wonder, but I also want to appreciate something. I mean, I have given the Hindu community leadership, not the Hindu community, just to clarify the distinction between the two. And it's frustrating that they have never spoken up. But yesterday, let me just share a little bit. I'm gonna sanitize 99.9% of what happened inside, because I think it's my duty as a host over here, whom a lot of Canadians listen to and trust. Listen, when I say there were the who's who of the Hindu leadership yesterday at Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton, there were the who's who of the Hindu leadership of Canada. And as always, there were attempts made to wash things under the rug, tell the young people to calm down. And then, to the credit of many seniors and others, you know who you are. I'm not taking your names. They stood up and they categorically said, and words like, if you don't stand up for the community right now and take action, don't be surprised that the community will start throwing you out of your own temples whom you are running. And then they smelled where the wind was blowing, and they sensed where the wind was blowing. And for the first time, Daniel, people don't understand how big this is in the context of Canada. This letter has been officially released. I was, I mean, it's insane what has happened here. For those who don't know, Canada, the politics in Canada is done through giant community centers. So every single politician will go to a mosque, go to a gurdwara, go to a temple, go to restaurants, go to shops, go to all these places. This is the official press release. Now you're saying, oh, it's not on a letterhead, it was not signed. Well, listen, everything was being done at 1 a.m. in the morning. What do you expect people to do? Have letterheads ready? So no, this is the official release from the Hindu community. I'm going to read the entire thing verbatim. And Daniel will explain to you why this is so important, because this has never happened. Today, the Hindu Sabha temple on Gore Road in Brampton was targeted by anti-Hindu pro-Khalistani protesters in a violent incident that has raised serious concerns about the safety of Canada's Hindu community. The protesters reportedly gathered at the temple's main entrance, forcibly entered the premises, and physically assaulted temple members and visitors, leaving the community shaken and demanding action. This attack is the latest in a series of alarming incidents aimed at Hindu Canadians who have faced an increasing wave of violence in recent years. Despite repeated calls from community leaders for stronger security measures to protect Hindu places of worship, political leaders have yet to take substantial steps to address the growing hostility. Following today's attack, the Canadian National Council of Hindus, CNCH, and Hindu Federation, along with temple leaders and Hindu advocacy groups, has issued a powerful statement. Hindu temples and institutions across Canada will no longer permit politicians to use temple facilities for political purposes. Politicians, regardless of party affiliation, I repeat, regardless of party affiliation, may continue to visit as devotees. That means you can come and pray. But they will no longer have access to temple platforms until they demonstrate concrete efforts to address the issue of Khalistani extremism. This directive underscores the Hindu community's commitment to safeguarding their sacred spaces and reinforces their demand for action to ensure the protection and dignity of all Canadians. Daniel, can you explain that if politicians can't enter a temple in Canada, what do they do?
They can outreach to the Hindu community. I mean, I'm kudos to if you pull this off and you stand your ground on this one, you'll get what you want. If you stand your ground here, this would be the biggest step you can take, because again, these temples are massive. They're dual temple, community centered, learning things. And even if they were just temples, the way politics is conducted in the West makes sense. You go to churches, you go to mosques, you go to synagogues to preach to people, because you have a community. Like in a church, you have a tight-knit community. That community has leaders. They have, certain values that you could ascertain. Everyone has a pretty good idea of what Christian values are in the country. There's Jewish values, what the Muslims want, what the Hindus want. If you want to get the Hindu vote, the first, second, and third places you would go would be Hindu temples or mandirs. If you can't go to the mandirs, your ability of outreach to the Hindu community is cut by 80%. Like, you really got to do the ground and pound work. So basically every Canadian politician except Chandra Arya and Kevin Vong is now banned from Hindu temples. And Kevin's an independent. So, you have that, but
I mean, they can come in to do a prayer, but why would they come to do a prayer if they're not allowed to speak?
Right, do a prayer, and then, like, if they're not Hindu, and it'll, you pander to one, you'll lose other communities. So effectively, they're banned until they say Khalistan. As of now, no one has said Khalistan, not Shuv, not Melissa Lanspin, not Pierre Poilievre. Those are your sort of the first three you would look to in the Conservative Party to say the K word. Of course, like Tim Uppal and Jaskar and Halan will never say Khalistan. But
what about Arpan Khanna, the Hindu?
Oh, Arpan Khanna. I mean, he's Hindu Yara Sachs. So no. And yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, politicians are just now banned from Hindu temples, unless they address these areas seriously. And good on the temples for putting this out. I hope they stick to this. Because peace through strength. Once you set the precedent that you can strong arm politicians into doing something for you, then politicians respect you. Politics does not work how they tell you it works. Politics does not work on mutual respect and shared values and kumbaya. That's not how politics works anywhere. It's strength and power. That is the game of politics. So the Hindu community is not respected by Canadian political class because the Hindu community respects Canada and politicians and expects them to expects the term. They read the terms and services coming into Canada and think those are the terms and services. That's window dressing. That's not how anything works. Okay. The only way you get what you want is if the politicians fear you. If the politicians go, if we do this, we get more votes, but if we don't do this, we lose votes. So there's never been any bulwarks in a politician's mind. Like, politicians could go like, I could probably go into a Hindu temple with a sledgehammer, smash all their idols, hit a baby in the face, walk out and say, oh, happy Diwali, and get away with it. And you could have done that last year. Now there's some deterrence being set by the Hindu community. So we will see how this goes. We'll see over the next week if any conservative politicians, if they think they could just, wait this one out, or if they'll be forced to say Khalistan. But again, this is a community that votes, but doesn't vote as a bloc. So Hindus have a high voting turnout. They also have a very wealthy community. So politicians like Hindu money. Money is money, and Hindus have money. And if you can't go into the temples and ask for money, and if you're such a pariah as a political party, like Melissa Lantsman was beloved by the community 3 weeks ago, now every politician is on the level of Justin Trudeau. So, if you're a big Hindu donor and you like to, like most donors in most communities, okay? You like to give money, and you give money because you get invited to fancy events, and at fancy events, you get to put on a fancy suit, and politicians in fancy suit come and take selfies with you, and you get to go post them and go, look how important I am. I hung out with this guy. If you're now posting that on your social media and your community says, why are you meeting with the people who hate us? And you're getting social blowback now, you're not going to throw selfies. You don't want to put selfies. So if you don't need the selfie, why give the $1,500 to the Conservative Party? Once you hit them at the wallet, once you hit them at the votes, then they'll learn. Until then, more Khalistan.
Yeah, and just to clarify one thing to every single person who is here in Canada right now, who's going to listen to this. If your temple lets a politician speak and use a mic, don't say anything at that time. First, take the evidence. All right? Then you record it, and you're going to email that evidence to me at contact@kushalmehra.com. You will be protected. Your name will not be released. But once again, I repeat, they can pray inside a temple. Everybody is allowed to pray inside a temple. It's a place for all faiths, right? But if somebody from the temple in Canada gives these politicians the mic to address the community, you'll first record it and garner the evidence. Then what do they say? You will take minutes and you will email it to me.
And listen, if they get up and say, hey, you're under attack by Khalistani extremists and we stand with you and we're going to work with you to do this,
then we will appreciate them.
And then
if they don't use the K word and they just spew rubbish, if they don't use the K word, and I want you to record them, they will be named and shamed. And I promise you, the Hindu temple trustees who let that happen and no Khalistan word was used will also be named and shamed. I promise you that. And I want each and every peace-loving Hindu to be vigilant and to be alert. So let's see what happens now. I repeat, when they come to the temple, don't say anything. Let them first see what they're doing. If they speak, record what they have said. If they don't use the Khalistan word, let me know. If they use the Khalistan word, let me know. Email ID is contact@kushalmehra.com. Because we will only win if we, the devotees who attend the temples, who actually make donations to the temples, if we don't hold these people accountable, nothing is going to change. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. It is very important for all of us to hold these people to account, because if we don't hold them to account, they are never going to take any of you seriously. That's the whole point. The rest is, everything else is the narcissism of the small differences. Oh, X or Y or anything. And some of these people I have criticized the Canadian Hindu Chamber of Commerce. Now it's time to praise them. All right, it's time to praise them. When you do good things, you get praised. So this is the Canadian Hindu Chamber of Commerce that have said the Canadian Hindu Chamber of Commerce condemns today's disturbing attack targeting Hindus at the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton, Ontario. Videos of the incident are going viral, further fueling community concerns about rising Hindu phobia. In response, CHCC has secured anonymous sponsors to cover the legal costs for anyone affected by these attacks. We call on authorities to take swift action to ensure the safety of places of worship, to hold those responsible accountable. CHCC stands in solidarity with the Hindu community during this difficult time. Once again, if you were someone who was attacked, you cannot cover the legal costs, and you want justice, go contact the Canadian Hindu Chamber of Commerce, but with evidence.
Can I add to this? Excellent. One of the reasons why the police enforce the law on you and not on the terrorists is because they know the terrorists will have legal cover from their community. And they think that, again, and this is one of the problems the Jewish community has. We have for every 3 Jews, there's 17 lawyers, Jewish lawyers. None of them, there's 2 Jewish lawyers who do pro bono work for the, our community sort of abandoned our activists, and our wealthy Jews have sort of gone into hiding. If you set the precedent that anytime there's police brutality against Hindus, there's going to be legal cover for those Hindus, and if the cops know that they go to a temple and if they touch a Hindu on a Hindu temple, the weight of $1 million worth of legal fees will come down on them and their family. They'll never touch you again. They will never touch you. Peace through strength. If the police know that brutalizing Hindus on a Hindu temple to protect extremist Khalistanis results in legal troubles, done. Cops want no pushback. They're all cowards in this. And listen, it wasn't like this 25 years ago, but it's now the system we're in. Squeaky wheel gets squeezed. If you set a precedent that if the cops just want to say, you know what, we're going to take the loudest Hindu out, we're going to brutalize him a bit to the station and then release him, if that results in a lawsuit, never again. But if it doesn't result in a lawsuit, and if Hindus get to what do we do? And if those people are left on their own trying to fundraise for scraps, try and go after the community and go after the cops, it'll get worse and worse and worse. So good on the Canadian Hindu Chamber of Commerce. I hope they follow through on this. And if you do follow through on this, within a few months, you will see major institutional changes in the police force. Major changes.
Yeah, until some lawsuits are filed, honestly, against these organizations, nothing is going to change. Beyond a point, these people just don't take the Hindu community seriously because they believe the Hindu community does not do anything. They're just going to let another politician in. So that's the biggest problem that we have as a community, and it's becoming really nauseating beyond a point that they just take us so lightly, and you have to stand up for yourself. And beyond a point, if you don't stand up for yourself, people are going to walk all over you. So please try and understand and listen. Once again, I want to repeat, this is not a conservative, liberal, NDP issue. This is the entire Canadian political class issue. There are Khalistanis in every single political outfit of Canada, and they push the Khalistani narrative in a very subtle way. If you do not take this seriously, and if you are a Canadian, it doesn't matter if you're a Hindu or not, Khalistan is a giant Canadian problem now. Please take this seriously, my dear fellow Canadians. Khalistan is a Canadian problem. We don't have Khalistan in India. We are celebrating Diwali, having fun, doing our bit. You guys have a giant problem here. That's the whole issue. You guys have a giant problem in Canada. And right now, the attention is on Chinese interference. No, it's on Indian interference. While Khalistanis run amok, jihadis shoot at synagogues, and the Chinese people basically run your country sitting in the CCP. So this is wonderful. We have a situation where the CCP runs your country and you are bothered about this alleged Indian interference. So, we've already done an hour. Let's just take a few questions.
Okay, we should probably, for the Canadian listeners, share the flyer. Let them know that there's today at 6 p.m.
Okay, so I'm so
And then
sorry. I forgot
and
to
we'll
do
go to
that.
questions after that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just completely forgot to do that. But yeah, where is here is the flyer. Just a second. I'm really sorry. I completely forgot about that. And so yeah, I'm not in Toronto right now because I had to come back for important things. But
I'll be there to cover it.
yeah, so go ahead and explain.
Yeah, so today, to sort of, there's going to be a counter protest, a demonstration rally at the two Monders that were attacked at 6 p.m. local time. So if you're in Toronto, Brampton, Mississauga, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Hindu Sabha Temple, there will be a protest. And if you're in Surrey, BC, the Lakshmi Temple, it will be 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern. So 3 hours later, but 6 p.m. both local times at these Monders, there will be demonstrations. So if you're going to the one in Brampton, feel free to say hi. I'll be there to get some footage and lend some support as well. But I just thought it was important to bring that up before we get on to Q&A time.
All right, so you guys know, so it's 6 p.m. Eastern time here in the Hindu Sabha Mandir. If you guys are there, you can go. But I repeat, peaceful gathering. That is the key word. Do not get agitated. Peaceful gathering. Those are the key words. Now we'll take the super chats. Kushal had pointed out the connection of Mexican drug cartels to Khalistanis. The Surrey drug bust is absolutely that. Trudeau doesn't know the monster he's enabling. Can you explain everyone about the Surrey drug bust? This is a perfect super chat.
Okay, so the biggest drug bust in history was just found. Fun fact: the previous biggest drug bust, that the details, that one actually just sorted legally. The guys went to jail. There was actually a connection to the Danforth shooter. So there were connections to Pakistani terrorist training camps, and then the brother was the Danforth shooter, who was an Islamic extremist who went up the Danforth and started murdering people. So this one is also Pakistani link, but from the Khalistani angle, it looks like. So in Canada, law enforcement, drug enforcement, any type of enforcement's kind of been thrown out the window. So organized crime has been able to run amok, and you've seen organized crime nationally and internationally just mingling. So everyone's kind of Canada's a cesspool. So the Khalistanis, the Muslim Brotherhood, the CCP, the Russians, the Mexican drug cartels, Hezbollah, all the criminal terrorist organizations, because it's so lax, have sort of banded together in a way in Canada and sort of run, whether it be drugs or weapons or human trafficking, right? Again, how does Canada have a $1 billion car auto theft industry? It's $1 billion industry, right? How do you get the ports, right? It's in order to control the ports, you have to control the people coming into the ports, people at the ports, people on both sides of the ports. So that's a widespread international criminal organization being run by every type of extremist ideology and every sort of mafia offshoot, how sort of merged together to create the Canadian crime syndicate. And in this, Khalistanis play a very big role because we have tons of Khalistanis. They don't really have anything other to do other than organized crime. So one of the biggest players in the sort of drug running, human trafficking, weapons smuggling ring are the Khalistanis. But they're involved with every other terrorist organization too. So I don't want to feel, if you're a big Hezbollah supporter and you're like, hey, Daniel, why aren't you giving credit to us for also being part of all this organized crime? You're doing it. Good job, Canada.
No, I want to take this head on. Hindus are paying the price for being a model minority. No, please. No, that's not a crime. Being a model minority is not a crime. Stop doing this. That the Hindus have the lowest crime rate in Canada is something not to be mocked. It is something to be proud of. I mean, stop this. Yeah, stop this. The answer to all of this is not being a crazy person. I don't know what has gotten into people. I seriously don't know. Like, what do you want Canada to become? Like, what do you guys expect Canada to become? Like, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, calm the heck down. No, we're not going to do this. We're not here. The Hindu community is not here to create a ruckus. You do this, you fall for the Khalistani trap. Just stop this, okay? This is insane. I mean, it's just insane. Kushal, please clear the doubt. The statement released by Hindu temples means no consulate events will happen in the mandir premises. Listen, consulate events, when we say consulate events, these are not events to celebrate something. Consulates, basically, like what was happening yesterday was pension forms were being signed. These are government events. Like the government.
These are paperwork
Yeah.
bureaucracy. These aren't political. These are like, come in, sign this, put your name here. Okay.
Yeah.
It's setting up some booths to do some clerical work. Like this is that's gonna, I mean, yeah, that's.
Yeah. I mean, this has to be, I don't know about this. Media Bezirgan made a video yesterday where he asked a Khalistani in Vancouver why they are protesting, and his answer was the Gurdwara is not allowing us to use washroom. Okay, I guess he needs to take a piss. I mean,
That sounds like something like half clever they baked up themselves. Like, we'll say we just want to go to the washroom with our Khalistani flags and they're not allowing us in. Like, and that seems like that seems like it was an idea drawn up by a 9-year-old. Like,
I mean, seriously, what the hell? I just find it funny now that people have such absurd ideas. Okay, Hindus in New Khalistan woke up too late. Is there any possibility of recovery from this? Yeah, don't worry. I mean,
yeah.
it,
Canada's very malleable, and Canada's a country that can sort of shift on a dime in a non-radical way, in a very reasonable way. So I'm listen. It's bad in Canada. It's real bad. It's never been worse. But Canada's a country that can sort of buck up, get it together, and when it focuses, accomplish a lot. Like, look at, it's like Canadians are these like lovey, happy-go-lucky peaceniks, and then like put Canadians in a war, in a situation where they have to get things done, and then watch them become hyper reasonable, courageous, and like practical. Like, Canada ended COVID-19. COVID-19 would still be a problem today without Canada. If the Canadian truckers didn't go to Justin Trudeau and honk at him, we'd still be wearing masks. We'd still have vaccine passports. We'd be talking about variants and shots and all that today. So Canadians, when they get somewhere on something and then they move on it, can be pretty powerful and stalwart. It's just sort of getting Canadians to that point, right? People just see, oh, happy to, oh, what's there? And, very, happy-go-lucky, this, and they can allow sort of their country to go into a downward spiral for a bit. Oh, at least we're not America, da-da-da. But there is a sense of the Canadian spirit that when it wakes up and actually goes at a problem, we can be rather stalwart and tenacious and fix whatever we really want to fix. Like, so I'm hesitant to ever say Canada is lost.
So, is it true that the U.S. ambassador to India said Panun's free speech is free speech, not hate speech, because there is no harm? Yeah, well, just to explain to people, listen, Americans actually allow hate speech, so too bad.
America and Canada are different places on speech laws.
So Canada doesn't. That's why under Canadian law, Pannu should be tried. He cannot be tried under American law. That's why he stays in America and incites things in Canada. By the way, he's a Canadian passport holder, so please, he cannot be charged in America, whether you like it or not. So too bad.
America actually has free speech, so it's not hypocrisy on America's sense. Okay. Trudeau's a hypocrite on the issue, but America is actually not.
So Polyev, is he different from Trudeau? Does Canada realize Khalistani extremist problem? They may eat away their own country. What do Canadians think? Okay, please answer for the Conservative Party of Canada.
So I would say Polyev is not as bad as Trudeau, right? We have Trudeau,
and I will back that.
Right, Yusuf Assange calling him an idiot on this issue. Polyev is not as bad on it. Now, he does have Khalistanis in the party, and they're there. So I do think there's a way to convince Pierre, especially if Donald Trump wins. If Donald Trump wins and the American Republican Party shows an outline of how to properly deal with India, the Conservatives can copy that. Okay, the Conservative Party of Canada is not a dynamic party. It's a very scared, very rigid party. They can monkey see, monkey do, but the amount of courage and dynamism a Conservative Party leader would need to actually individually push an issue forward within the Conservative Party is a lot. You'd have to be like hyper charismatic and like really beloved, but like you'd have to have so much like public support and personal charisma to move the Conservative Party an inch without a focus group doing something on it first. So the elements inside the Conservative Party for dealing with Khalistani extremism are there. They're just sort of you bought the ingredients, they're not on the stove and they're not being processed, but they can be. And as far as what do local Canadians think? I think you're seeing, especially after yesterday, Canadians. I'm seeing a lot of. Well, I think India was right about this, because a lot of this is sort of proving what a lot of the Indian narrative was saying about like the lawless breakdown in Canada. Again, most Canadians don't really care about like the Indian foreign interference. Oh, what, they're in a gang war and they killed this random guy. Okay, don't kill Canadians. But now they're seeing what actually is Khalistan, and they're seeing the ethnic tension on their streets. And now, when India says there's vote bank politics and ethnic tension on your streets because of the Liberal Party, Canadians go, yeah, there's ethnic tension and ethnic violence on our streets because of the Liberal Party. So the Indian narrative rings a lot truer to the Canadian when they hear it, because that's what they can see on the streets, versus the Canadian narrative, which is this cockamamie grand conspiracy by the so public opinion is shifting on this issue.
Okay, and just to back him, I mean, Pierre Poilievre did officially release a condemnation, an unequal condemnation on the situation in Bangladesh. By the way, nobody else in Canada did. Pierre Poilievre was the only one who did. I also want to state this for the record, that it was Melissa Landsman who officially tabled. She's the deputy leader of the Conservative Party. Honestly, the only real friend of Hindus in the Conservative Party is Melissa Landsman. Honestly, nobody else is.
Yeah.
Nobody else is a friend of the Hindu community there. She tabled the Hindu phobia bill motion, so she's also there. And these things matter. And please, to that question of Hindus are suffering being the model minority, no, 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 and only no. This is, this is the distribution of adult population in correctional facilities in Canada, as per the current database. And it's very important to see all of this and understand which community is at the bottom. It's the Hindu community. No, this is not something that we need to be ashamed of, ladies and gentlemen. This is literally a fact that we are the least violent community of Canada. We literally are the least violent community of Canada. We follow the Canadian law. We just put our head down and we work. It's the job of the Canadian political system to protect us. We're not supposed to become thugs like Khalistanis, Islamists. We're not supposed to become that. Democracy is not supposed to be a system which incentivizes thuggishness. This is not on. I reject this entire bullshit argument, and I call it bullshit with full responsibility. I know a lot of people are trying to play this game. No. Can the government be sued for charter rights violations, a class action suit against all politicians who are silent? I don't know.
I don't think you can't sue politicians for being silent. You can sue people for incitement.
Yeah.
Suing politicians, not a great way. Like, you can sue Sikhs for Justice. I think you can sue the CBC for nodding along with Panoon while he advocated for weeding out Indian Canadians based on ethnicity. You could argue that, but I don't think you can't really. I mean, you can sue the government in certain ways for charter rights and violations. Listen, I'm not a legal expert on this. So you'd have to ask one. Theoretically, you can sue anyone for anything, but this doesn't sound like the best idea to me. Listen, there should be lawsuits. Go after Sikhs for Justice. If you can claim that Jagmeet was inciting this, you can sue him just to put it on. But again, like most Canadian politicians, like I think they can fund a lawsuit through the government. So it's not the same thing. Like, if you sue an individual, like, they'll have to fund their defense. But I think if you like sue someone in the government and you accuse the government of doing it, then the Liberal Party money machine will just take care of it, hire 10,000 lawyers, and put up a legal bulwark. And again, the way Canada works, if you're suing the Liberal government if you're suing the government can find a judge who is most amiable to the side of the establishment. So it is trying to climb up a heavily fortified hill.
Mm-hmm. How I can answer this. How do we know if money donated to temples are being used properly? Most people donating are not aware of the politics around them, Sanket. Then your job is to make sure that the friends who go to the mandir around your area need to hold the trustees accountable. We can do that, Sanket. There were no letters being issued by Hindu temples until suddenly, almost 2 months ago, I started talking about this. So there are ways of dealing with this, Sanket, in a civilized way. You should understand. Just keep holding them accountable. They will behave themselves. And not all of them are like this. Many of them actually, you know what? How do I find out what happens in temples at times? Some of my sources are the trustees. They call me. Well, I look what these jackasses are doing. They call me. So try and understand. If things are changing. I feel sad about the plight of Hindus in Canada, but I'm happy that I built a successful career here in India. Now, when some aunties want to show off their NRI kid, I can say I don't get beaten up outside temples.
This is the best comment. Finally.
Yes. This man deserves the Order of Canada. Oh, okay. Now, this is another good question. Is similar Hindu mobilization like the one in India possible in Canada? Yes, sir, it is. Okay. Now, this is another call for action to all of you who are watching this. I am going to give you a link, okay, of a website. If you are a Canadian landed immigrant, as in a permanent resident, or you are a Canadian citizen, all right, look at this website. This is called the Canada Hindu Vote, empowering our community. This is going to be an effort to create the largest Hindu vote bank ever in Canadian history. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the individualists are going to become a group now. All of you Hindu Canadians who are watching this right now, everything is there in the detail. Once again, I will type it and share it on the screen too for all of you so that you know. The website is called CanadaHinduVote.ca. That is CanadaHinduvote.ca. All of you Canadian Hindus are going to go there, irrespective of which riding you are, and you're going to register. You're going to register yourself and you're going to create the largest Canadian Hindu vote bank. Before somebody says, am I affiliated in any way with this effort? No. Kushalmehra does not work with anyone. I just support people who do work. I just promote them without taking any money for free because that's how I am. So once again, CanadaHinduVote.ca. You want to become a vote bank? Listen, each and every one of my Canadian Hindu listeners or viewers, go to this website, register, contact them, start becoming pockets of voters of 500,000, 2,000, 3,000 in individual ridings. What is to be done after that, when we create this database across Canada, will be informed at an opportune time. That's all I want to say. But yes, Hindu Canadians are now officially going to become a vote bank. That is for sure. And now we have basically covered all the questions. Daniel, is there anything else left that you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I think we've covered it all. If you're going to the Monder and Brampton later, I'll see you tonight. If you're just generally Hindu in Canada, if you're concerned about this, my message to you would be, listen, the world's a scary place, and see the silver lining here. At least you can wake up before it's too late, right? Yes, Hindus were attacked, but no one was killed, and this gives you the power to sort of stand up before you're killed. So register for these organizations. And if you're mad, have you emailed your MP, your MPP? Have you sent them a call? Email them. Send them calls. It works in politics. Get involved. Get involved before it's too late. Yes, subscribe to this podcast. Support Kushal on Patreon. Support me on Twitter and Instagram and this and that. blah, 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 blah. But if you're really concerned about Canadian politics, get off your tuchus, look up your MPs and your MPP's email and phone number, send them an email about this, then call them.
Yeah. This is another call to action that is very important. Wherever you are in Canada, look up your riding name. After that, find out who is your MPP and your MP and your local councillor. Even that. Go and call them and email. Write a formal email. And all of you, when you write a formal email, send me a copy at contact@kushalmehra.com. I want a copy of that so that I know which MP was emailed by which Hindu. I don't care if my email box is flooded with 1,000 emails. I don't care. Email me at contact@kushalmehra.com. This is another call to action. Do that.
And keep keep your emails professional. I wouldn't swear on them.
Yeah, don't swear.
Listen, I can give you. I can give you. This is what Canadian politicians are actually told in their offices. Okay, a well-written email to them is the equivalent of 100 people demonstrating. That's what they're told, and a phone call is equivalent of 1,000 people demonstrating. Okay, so if you do it reasonably, if you write an individual email, that to a politician, they're told to say that's like 100 people saying something, and if you actually take the time to call and get through to the office and send a message, the math they're told is that's like 1,000 people. So right now, if you watch this and you're like, what can I do? I'm not in Brampton. I'm not in Surrey. If you want to stage an 1,100 person protest right now, phone, email.
Absolutely. Because Daniel and I are going to be back tomorrow on the podcast with another very important Canadian issue in the morning. So before we wrap up, once again, please try to understand the strength of this podcast, the independence that both Daniel and I have got, and why we are able to even criticize the Conservative Party where we might slightly lean towards them. I'm not going to hide. Both of us lean conservative in many ways. But the reason we are able to do that is because we are independent. And if you want us to be independent, you have to support this podcast financially. You have to join the membership program of the Cārvāka podcast on Patreon, on YouTube, wherever you want to. You have to follow us on X. You have to subscribe to this channel. You have to do all those things. Without that, the independence of this podcast, whether it's me or Daniel, or even the National Telegraph, these things cannot happen. So do what you're supposed to do the right thing. And if you can't do any of this, at least leave a rating on your audio platform and like this video and leave a comment in the comment section and give us a follow on X. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.